What's up, y'all? It's Bethany and Kristen, and today we are reacting to why Christian girls should be beautiful but not seductive. This video is a throwback to one we filmed years and years ago.
Probably 2016,
yeah.
2017.
And this one exploded. People were like, okay, how do you be beautiful but not seductive? And then people were reacting like, come on, girls can be seductive all they want. And I'm telling you, I have no idea what we say in this. We were going back through just recently and like looking through all the titles and the views of all our videos. And I'm like, we cranked out some content, but I have no idea. I'm like, I recognize the clothes I'm wearing, but I don't know what we're talking about. Like, man, this has been a while.
Yes, it'll be so great. I love it. And we haven't watched it, like you said. So this will be our raw and honest reaction of Girldefined circa 2016 or 2017 and what we thought about beauty seduction back then. Because we have a lot of thoughts about it today. And if we had to record this from scratch without reacting, there are a lot of things that I know I would want to say. So I'm curious to see what I said then. In fact, in our latest book, Made to Be She, we have entire sections that talk about this exact thing, but from the standpoint of how we got beauty wrong as Christian women. There's an entire section actually on beauty specifically and how influenced we've been by our culture's ideals for beauty and even how so often as women, the purity culture has shaped a lot of our perspectives on womanhood, beauty, our sexuality, but in a way that's actually not biblical. And so we've gone astray in that ditch. And then we talk also about the feminist movement and that ditch and how that has also shaped our view of seduction, beauty, womanhood, femininity, but in a secular sense of like, well, this is what the world's presenting. And so how do we get out of these ditches that have influenced our view of womanhood, whether it's really super conservative womanhood that falls in the trap of legalism or secular womanhood that's stemming from a lot of feminist mindsets? How do we get back to gospel-centered womanhood? And that is what we unpack in Made to Be She. This is a book for women of our day, today. So culturally relevant. We go places that we have never gone in any of our other books. And if you're a woman struggling with any of these ditches that we mentioned, then grab a copy. It will be so encouraging to you as a Christian woman to understand God's design for your womanhood and how to live it out in every area of your life, including beauty, including your sexuality. So without further ado, shall we? Why Christian girls should be beautiful but not seductive? Let's react together.
Hey, it's Kristen and Bethany here with Girldefined Ministries, and in today's vlog, we're going to be talking about why Christian girls should be beautiful but not seductive. So the reason that we really wanted to film this video today is because in the past, whenever we've posted blogs or posts on the topic of modesty or maybe true beauty, and we're using our beauty as women to reflect Christ's glory, or even topics like modesty, purity, anything along those lines, it seems like it never fails that we always, as we scroll through the comments, we always come across a few comments that read something like this: Christian girls can post whatever images they want if it makes them feel beautiful. Or being beautiful and seductive are the same things and there's nothing wrong with it. So the more we've seen comments, it seems like they're popping up more and more and more and becoming really common. It's just really caused the two of us to take a step back and realize, wow, in this modern day and age, it really does seem like modern Christian girls are merging the terms beautiful and seductive. And to a lot of girls, they think that those things mean the same thing. Now,
Interesting. I mean, I always have to comment, how is my hair the exact same length? And yours is kind of growing, but I feel like it's kind of the same.
I know. I'm not doing my traditional. If you're listening to this podcast, you need to go watch it on YouTube, honestly, because it's going to be way more fun for one to react with us, because a lot of the things we're commenting on you can't see unless you can see the video that we're showing. But I've got my traditional Kristen braid that I became known for. I would do this little one braid on one half of my hair, and I would like pin it back with a bobby pin, and it became my staple. And here I am sporting it again.
Okay, so this was a while ago when selfies and social media was still kind of like newer to the scene. For some of us, you're like, I didn't know that social media ever came onto the scene. It's been a part of life forever. And for others of us, we remember like when these things came into existence, those of us who are a little bit older. But I remember when like selfies came onto the scene and kind of the controversy of that. And it's so crazy because it really has become the air that we breathe. A woman, a mom, there could be a mom of young kids and you go to her Instagram page and you're like, oh, wow, it's like her personal modeling portfolio. And you're like, I have seen more of this woman than I ever knew I needed to, And you often see more of people than you ever wanted to, and you're like, wow, like that is just so interesting that we've created this place, these platforms where men and women, but like we're talking to women here, where we can go and we're like, oh, just one of the comments I always joke with Dave about is I see this all the time. People will post and they'll be like, felt cute, might delete later, and it's in my opinion a way to like be like, oh, look at me, I kind of felt cute, but also like I might delete it later. It's not that serious, but also like please drop a comment, and like tell me how great I look. So I'm always joking. So I'm always with him like felt cute, might delete later, like and I've like seen guys do this. Like I see like literally like every single day I feel like I see someone like felt cute, might delete later. But it's like it might be like a girl and she, she's just like clearly posing like a huge like felt cute, might delete. And it's like, what are we wanting? So I think that I don't know. It's such an interesting time where we live in where people are specifically taking pictures and posting them specifically to showcase certain body parts. And
so seductive images, you're saying.
Yeah, seductive images,
Let's
whether
call
it's
it what
the
it
boobs,
is.
the butt, whatever. And they're really posing. And I mean, for what purpose? Like
just because you feel cute. Comment might delete later.
It's just such an in what world? It's just so funny when you take a step back. It's like it was so
well,
weird.
Something you mentioned like social media, how it hasn't actually always been around, and that's interesting because for so many watching and listening, right? You're like it's all I've ever known, but we remember the days. We're old enough. We're like mid to late 30s. We remember when social media wasn't a thing, and I remember getting my first Facebook account, my first Instagram account. Like I remember that there was a distinct time, and what was really interesting, and what is interesting, it's now the air we breathe. But what the era of social media has brought is that any one of us can be that Cosmo Girl magazine cover, right? So before that, all of us very impressionable young women, we check out at the grocery store, we see Cosmo magazine, Glamour magazine, and it's always a very beautiful but seductively posed woman. And there's a difference. You can be a beautiful woman not posing seductively. You can be a beautiful woman posing seductively. Totally. They're not one and the same, okay? And so we see these magazine covers as young girls. We grow up. We see these every time we're at the grocery store and we think, wow, to be beautiful and attractive is synonymous with seductive. So we all get our social media accounts for the first time. And we basically start copying what we've seen on these magazine covers, these glamorous, beautiful women all posting seductive pictures. We think, okay, that's what it means to be beautiful. Clearly, they're like the models. We copy what the models do. And now we all have our own basically Cosmo covers for our Instagram, for our social media accounts, starting with MySpace, even way back in the day. That's like no longer a thing. But, now TikTok and all the other ones that are coming along, it's like the thing to do. And the crazy thing is that, yes, it does get the likes and comments. Yeah. It's being seductive, being sexual. It does stir things in people who see that. And so clearly you're going to get that praise and affirmation and it's going to spur you on to want to do it more. But what we're trying to get at here in this video, which I still agree with, is that you can be beautiful, but you don't have to be seductive. Yeah. And so like you're saying, getting back to the heart of like, why are you doing what you're doing? Let's see what else we say.
We believe that there really is a massive difference between the word beautiful and the word seductive. Okay. And not just because it's our opinion. We're saying we don't want girls to be seductive or we don't want girls to be beautiful. The two of us think beauty is an awesome, wonderful thing. Not because we think it, but because of what we see in God's word. Yeah. And now when we open up the Bible, we see passages like Proverbs 31, Titus 2, or even women that God highly praises. But he says, yes, they were beautiful, but he praises them for their character. And then we see something completely different. If you flip over to chapters like Proverbs 5, Proverbs 7, you see women who are very beautiful, but who have taken their beauty and twisted it for something completely different. And the Bible says these women are seductive. Their hearts are full of self-focusedness, trying to draw people to them in a way that is not honoring to me. And so it doesn't say beauty and seductiveness are the exact same thing. It says, yes, there are beautiful women. I created beauty. It can be a great and wonderful thing if used in purity and holiness for my glory. But seduction, drawing people's attention to yourself, drawing people's eyes to yourself in a way that is not holy, that is not pure, that is not honoring to Christ, is not a good thing. And we see that very clearly in chapters like Proverbs 5 and Proverbs 7. So we just
Proverbs 5 and the seductive woman.
Yes, I'm looking at our makeup there too. I don't really wear eyeliner as much anymore.
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, so here's something interesting. I think some people would look at this and say, well, look at your makeup. You are wearing so much makeup that you're erring on the side of being seductive. You're trying to copy the magazine models. Some people might say that, The interesting thing is that back then, we actually wore more makeup back then than we even do now.
I mean, I kind of like my eyeliner, though.
Your eyeliner is really sharp.
Drop a comment. Let me know. Should we bring it back?
Should we bring back that
What about
makeup
the pink lipstick? I mean, I'm kind of like right there. I've got that face. I've got my model face on right now.
What we have going on right there is not, and I remember this from back when we recorded these videos.
Yeah.
We were not trying to be like, oh, heavy makeup to be seductive. What we were doing was more of like what an anchor on a news channel would do.
Yes, we were.
Where we had this idea that this thought like, on camera, the camera washes you out. And you would always hear that, like, wear more for the camera.
I mean, it
because
does.
It washes you out. Maybe we look really bland now with our less makeup on. I don't know. But back then, we were very new to like YouTube cameras. Like, this is early on. And we thought, okay, we've got it. We were wearing even more makeup here than we do normally. Because
for sure.
Were trying to prepare for the camera. We were trying to be camera ready.
Yeah.
Like someone on the news would be. And that's what's happening.
Yeah. So it's interesting, though, because even from this point, you actually talk about this in the Chasing Beauty at All Costs. You talk about the cult of the young body or the cult of the ideal body. And this is chapter
and the young
11,
body.
Chasing Beauty at All Costs in our book, Made to Be She. That chapter is insane. So if you struggle with like body image issues or comparison online to other women or just the pressure to get cosmetic procedures and to just have this young body at all costs, Made to Be She is going to be an amazing resource for you. Like, I wish I had had this book when I was younger. I wish I had had this book when I was where I am now. Like, I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to dive in and research and write this because it truly has changed me as well. But I think of now, like it's gotten even worse. The online pictures, the online posting, not only because there's so many filters that can literally alter and change the way that you look, but the cosmetic procedures. Women who we see aren't even the original versions of themselves. The average everyday influencer, most of them have cosmetic procedures, a nose job, like a chin removal thing, the buccal fat removal. Like you see these accounts where they'll post like before and afters of famous people, and it's shocking.
Lip fillers.
It's shocking, all of the procedures. And so now we have the pressure to compare ourselves to people who don't even look like their original selves. And we're like, well, I don't look that way. And now, it's like you drive down the street and you see tons of billboards for just everyday average procedures. And it's very common for the average woman to get fillers, to get Botox. There's the whole other side of like the health ramifications of that, to get a boob job. It's just very, very, very common and normal. And it breaks my heart that so many young girls are growing up in that world where it's like, okay, maybe when I turn 16, maybe when I turn 18, maybe when I'm 21, I can finally, get the nose job, or I can get the boob job, or I can we've come so far from even being able to embrace like natural beauty and natural features. And my rant will end soon, but I saw someone who was like, there were certain celebrities that were posting promoting natural beauty and they didn't have makeup on, but people were comparing their before and afters to like all the work that they've had done. And they're like, this isn't natural. So we can't even see a celebrity with just her makeup off and be like, oh, wow, like look how beautiful she is. It's like,
her nose has been altered. Oh, and her lips have been plumped up. Oh, and that fat,
the eyebrows, removed, the fat,
the extensions in the hair, and
it's just like sad. And we're not against I'm not against cosmetic procedures, but the obsession of it, the cult that it has become, the pressure that so many women feel to alter and cosmetically change and to go into debt to be able to do this is just heartbreaking. So
and it's the kind of expected. Like if you're any sort of person online, any sort of young influencer, you are being influenced by all of the other influencers. And because it's so common, like you said, your 16th birthday, your 18th birthday, it used to be that we wanted to get our ears pierced or maybe like a second piercing. And now it's like, oh, for my 18th birthday, maybe I'll get a boob job. Yeah. Like that is what's considered very normal. And that's just the reality of the society we live in. So we even as Christian women, that chapter helps reframe. I even call it, because I wrote that chapter, we write half the book each. And so it's like, oh, I know I wrote that chapter. Yes. Like I love what I said here because it's what I need to hear. But I talk about how as Christians, we have to actually start thinking of beauty like a Christian. Because so often, most often, and I fall prey to this all the time too, of thinking of my beauty as a woman from a worldly perspective and then filtering my thoughts or my insecurities or my desires. Should I do that? Should I not? From a worldly perspective. I'm not even thinking about it like a Christian informed by what God says about any of this. And so that's one of the biggest things I unpack in that is like the cult of the young body, the cult of youthfulness, which it really is. And then how do we actually think like Christians? Not just say, oh, I'm a Christian. Yes. Beauty, God made it. But like, how do we actually think about it when it comes to making some of these big decisions or being influenced by influencers who've had all the work done? It's so important. So that chapter alone, I would say, is worth the whole book for every single one of us because I think this is a topic we can all relate to.
I just want to take a few minutes to really break down the difference between the word seduction and the word beauty. We are honestly convinced that the reason so many of us as modern Christian girls are kind of interchanging the words beauty and seduction is because of this modern culture that we live in. And we see, like if you look at stores like Victoria's Secret, Hollister, stores where when you look in their windows, it's very clear that seduction is something that they're kind of using for advertisement. When we see those things as Christian girls, I think those things are slowly reshaping our minds and reshaping our thinking to say, oh, that's a beautiful woman. She's dressed very seductively. She's posing very seductively. Oh, but that's what's hot. That's what's in. That's what's sexy. That's what's being praised. So, okay, beauty and seduction must mean the same things. And so without even realizing it, it's not like we're intentionally trying to think this way. We are just kind of being slowly and subtly reshaped by the culture around us to view beauty and seduction as the same things. Yeah, and instead of...
I agree with that. And what's funny, I don't even think Hollister's in business anymore.
No, I think they are.
I thought they went out. No?
I think like online.
Do you remember ever walking by their store at the mall and they would have real models standing out by their door? Like outside the front store? Did you ever see that?
I don't. I just remember.
I remember being like, what? It was like a real guy, and he would have no shirt on,
so
like big
awkward.
muscle man, and then like some, really, seductively dressed cute girl would be there next to him, and they would be at the front, like, hey, like welcoming people into the store. That's next level.
Didn't they have like a very strong perfume scent or a smell? It was like they had like a super strong perfume or cologne smell that was like a part of all the stores.
Probably. I mean, I was too scared to go in.
I remember we had our brother when he played basketball, one of his in high school, one of his friends like I don't know, won an audition for Hollister, and he was like on all the bags, on all the posters, and like
he
we
was
met
like
a few
the model.
Yeah, it was like so random.
Yeah, but I mean, we've already said what we said here, so we won't repeat it. I agree with that still to this day, that the word seductive and beautiful have become interchanged. I mean, have become one.
Yeah.
To where when we think of a beautiful woman, it's hard to separate the seduction or all of the cosmetic procedures or a woman that has a lot of makeup on, that's like really dressed up. Like our version of what we think is beautiful we don't just think of like a really cute girl with no makeup and no procedures and she's just like living life like that. Not many people think that. You think of the celebrities, you think Kardashian, you think Beyonce, like these famous people that are very beautiful, but there's also a lot more to
it's more like the beauty of the feminine, like the beauty of the feminine woman and just like who she is. It's like we've kind of lost that. It's more like you're saying, like the cosmetically like super hot almost. Like hot is woman, not like the feminine of who she is. Like just the fact that she is different from man. Like that's what's so beauty is those differences and the fact that she is capable of carrying life, that she is like more soft, that she has more curves, like in not a like seductive way, but just like in the essence of who she is. I think there are really amazing men who are drawn to that and appreciate that and like respect the difference.
Feminine beauty.
Feminine beauty. But I think we've kind of trained ourselves and the men around us to be like hooked on the seduction of a woman,
Yep. Okay, let's keep watching.
Being shocked and really appalled by the half naked or even mostly naked women that we're seeing on these billboards and on these posters. Instead, we're thinking like, oh my goodness, that's what beautiful is. That's what I need to be. And as Christian girls, we're thinking, okay, I need to mimic this in order to really be beautiful. And so the two of us have honestly many times in the past kind of been almost desensitized and almost bought into this mindset thinking like, okay, if I want to really be beautiful, if I really want to be accepted by those around me and praised, then I need to mimic them and I need to look like them. And sadly, this is not God's best for us as Christian women. He does not want us to be seductive in order to think that we're beautiful. We should not interchange those words. We should not look at those, posters and think, oh my goodness, I need to dress half naked or I need to post these images on social media in order to be beautiful. So in a nutshell,
yeah, that's really good.
True.
It's interesting because I don't think we're going to share this story because it's so short, but we've shared it many times where we went up to on our rooftop and basically, I posted about this on Instagram.
Yeah, we were young.
Well, like young, like what? Like 20s?
Yeah, early 20s. That's true. We were that young.
And we decked out and we were dressed modestly, like our bodies were covered, but we had all the jewelry, all the makeup, the big hair, and we truly were trying to mimic what we saw on the magazines. And then we literally took those pictures, uploaded them to Facebook, which was just our social media at the time. And we literally just waited for the likes and the comments to come in. And the crazy part of that story is like, yeah, they did come in. People were like, oh, it's like so horrific when I think back to it. Like we were so obnoxious. But the likes did come in. People praised us just like they do if you post pictures like that. So we're like, yeah, you will get attention, but then eventually it goes away. The next thing comes up, and then you're left like, okay, well, now I'm old news. What do I need to do next? It's not satisfying. And you've basically just like sold some of your soul to get a little bit of affirmation, and it doesn't last. And in the Made to Be She, in that chapter on beauty, I think it's so important to figure out, like, how do I be a feminine, beautiful woman where seduction does have its place, like within marriage. It can be very beautiful. Like, I think that that's part of like God's design. So how do we embrace all of that in the right context while not getting caught up in the need for this validation in order to feel like you have worth?
Yeah. And it's a never-ending chase inside Made to Be She, inside the chapter on beauty, chapter 11, Chasing Beauty at All Costs. I unpack the different movements throughout the past 100 years and how beauty has changed. Basically, about every 10 years, every decade, there's a different standard for what is considered the ideal woman. And so the ideal woman over time, every decade would change from like the hourglass figure would be really in, and then it would be like the super slender flapper dress, like skinny kind of woman, almost like adolescent boy type of body. Then it would change to be really curvaceous, and then it would change to be this and that. And so it's a never-ending chase in and of itself. So for us to look on at celebrities, to look on at influencers, to look on at photoshopped women, to look, all women with procedures, or even a woman who hasn't had any of that, but she just looks different than you, and you're comparing yourself, is basically to go down a rabbit hole chase that will never end. Like, you will never be satisfied. And that's what I talk about, is like, when is enough enough? Because when you look at some of the most, what the world would consider the most beautiful models of our day, right? And I talk about this in this chapter. Even they struggle with their own looks in comparison. Even some of them have said in their own words that they are some of the most unhappy, discontent women with their physical appearance out of anyone they know. And we looking on, just like us common people, would be like, what? How's that possible? You're like literally a supermodel. How are you discontent with your outward appearance? And it's because that's not what God created women to find satisfaction in. That's why it's a never-ending chase. No matter how many procedures you can get, you will never look in the mirror and say, I am perfectly 100% happy with everything that I am, because that's not where it's found. And so how do we get back to that heart of, like you said, true feminine beauty with a Christian perspective? You got to buy the book if you want to know more.
Seduction is really just when we as Christian girls dress in a way, act in a way, pose in a way, post pictures in a way that are intentionally designed to draw people's eyes to us and to our bodies, rather than using our bodies to reflect people off of us and to give God glory. So now let's talk about the word beauty and really dive into what that means. So first of all, God is the author and designer and creator of all things beautiful. He made women to be very beautiful, and he designed us to carry the mark of his creativity. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with being beautiful. We are all for women being beautiful and embracing our God-given beauty. However, we are all for that, and we see in the Bible that God created us as his beautiful creations, not just for our own glory, not to allure people and draw them to ourselves, but to ultimately reflect back on the beautiful design that God created us to have and use our beauty for his glory. Our outward beauty as Christian girls should never be used in a way to entice, lure in, distract, and seduce or arouse the people around us. We need to be careful to not use our beauty in a way that selfishly causes people to give us attention and glorify us rather than glorifying our creator. True beauty really...
That's great. I love, like, as when either of us are talking, we're like a part of the moment.
Yes. We're laughing at how we're interacting to each other on our videos. And it's like, if one of us is saying something sad, the other one gets
a sad face.
Super sad face. I'm like, no, it's like...
I think that the idea that we're wanting to convey, maybe back then, but like what I think of now is just like freedom. Like, ultimately, Christ has set us free from the bondage of sin and slavery to that. And like through the gospel and through, him dying on the cross and conquering sin and death, rising from the dead. And I just think that's so beautiful. And ultimately, we don't want to be slaves to either the validation of other people, the approval of other people. We don't want to be slaves of trying to measure up. We don't want to be slaves to trying to stay like in this young cults of like, okay, I only have value when I'm young.
Yeah,
and then,
I know.
I lose my value as I get older because I have wrinkles or I sag or whatever, like, of course it's good to take care of your body. Of course it's okay to like we are like God created creativity. We can use that with with ourselves. Like we can express all of that is so beautiful. But I think it's when it becomes like a bondage, like a slavery where you don't feel free to live. You're constantly having to look in the mirror. You're constantly having to like check. You're like, destroyed if someone makes a negative comment about you rather than just walking in this freedom of like, I know where my worth is found. I know where my identity is found. And I can be confident in that, whether you like me or not. I mean, the two of us have been ripped apart online. People don't like the message of what we say, and they decide that, mocking our physical appearance is a great strategy for I don't know what. And so we have been, mocked left and right. People have, criticized every little aspect of us. And it's amazing to sit here and be able to be in a place of thriving because people online don't define my worth. They literally are not my creator. They didn't create me. They don't get a say in what makes me valuable or not that valuable. Like, I know that I am uniquely made, that God loves me, that he celebrates the diversity of his creation. He celebrates all the unique differences in the ways that we look. And ultimately, like, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And so it's amazing when you can really walk in that freedom, knowing where your identity is found.
Amen. All right, let's wrap this up.
Is the farthest thing from hot looks and sensual poses. True beauty really is found in a girl who loves Jesus and is striving to reflect him through her life. Now, I know this can be kind of hard. You're like, okay, how do I do this? What does this exactly look like? So let me read you a few things that might help you understand this on a more like down-to-earth level.
Yeah.
True beauty is having fun with pictures, but being wise enough to know where to draw the line. It's wearing fashionable clothing, but knowing what sexual styles to avoid. True beauty is knowing how to wear makeup to enhance your natural beauty, but not going overboard with it. True beauty is caring more about being pure.
Okay. This advice is a little funny to me.
This advice is like, I don't know where we got this
I
from.
don't know.
I think we just thought, like, what would practically help us?
But like, what does that even mean?
I know.
Enhance your natural beauty, but like also who's making the rules?
Who's making the rules? No.
So like, I probably would not say this stuff again.
Yeah, I would probably not say this stuff either.
Had to jump in.
I actually, okay, when we finish with this advice, I'm going to wrap up this video with a few words from the book that are probably a little more solid.
A little bit. Yeah, so Kristen and Bethany, delete that part.
Pure before God than striving for the likes and comments of your friends online. That's a hard one for all of us. True beauty is a desire to use your life and photos to influence others towards Christ and his holiness, not away from it. We hope you can see that beauty and seductiveness are really two totally different things. Now, we get that this is a really big, hard topic, and sometimes, like Bethany said, it's like, how do I actually practically live that out? Girl, we get it. We are all in this together. It really is a daily battle. And with the rise of social media, we feel that temptation too to post pictures in certain ways because they're probably going to get more likes. But as Christian girls, we have to remember our ultimate purpose is to not bring glory to ourselves, but ultimately to glorify God. So in this video, we really hope you don't walk away feeling like we gave you a list of rules, because that's not our intention. Our goal in this video is to simply encourage you as a Christian girl in your walk with God to use your life, your photos, your outward appearance, everything you do to reflect the glory and purity of Christ. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it,
we were speaking to teen girls.
I know.
That is another thing. I think about, like, okay, back then for when this happened, like the teen girls who watched it, social media was a new thing and it was hard and challenging. And it did feel like to get attention, you needed to be seductive and post those selfies. And even today, of course, we have those struggles. So the message back then, I would say there's some things I would tweak, like you mentioned. But okay, wrapping it up with a few words from our book, Made to be She, though, Thinking Like a Christian About Beauty. One, and we unpack these further in the book, your real body is a gift. So remembering that unaltered, without makeup, the person you are when you wake up in the morning, that is your real body. That is who God created you to be. And that is a gift to be used for God's glory, to serve others. That is what our bodies are for. Two, fear the Lord, not the mirror, right? The more that we fear the Lord and have our heart and our focus on him, the less we will look in the mirror and hate and critique what we see, because we'll recognize this life isn't actually about me. It's about me worshiping my creator, fearing him above all else. And then I can look in the mirror and say, thank you, God, for this gift of the body that you gave me. 3, your heart matters more than your hair. So like you mentioned, your hair doesn't grow. I know mine doesn't really grow either, but God really does. You mentioned man looks on the outward appearance, Lord looks on the heart. That is true. And Satan would love nothing more than to get our focus on our physical appearance, on this this temporary body that will not be the eternal body we will get one day. And then lastly, physical brokenness won't last forever. There are things physically that are struggling, health issues, things about our physical bodies that are broken in this fallen world, but that's not going to last forever because as believers, we know we will get a body that's made new. All right, grab a copy of Made to Be She to dig into God's design for womanhood. It is so good. Girldefined.com/she, and then come back and join us for the next episode.